So, Professor, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Professor. So me and my team, Bhavyada Reddy, Kiran Kalyan, Zainal, and myself, we have been working on this topic, neuromarketing. The important thing of neuromarketing is we all know it is actually playing in every market aspects in a different way, even though the customers are not knowing. So that is the reason why I have chosen this motto here, the art of brain influence. When I say brain influence, it is actually influencing your brain without you even knowing what you are doing. So that is how the neuromarketing is actually happening. So that is why I just chose this motto for neuromarketing. So I'll just start with a basic explanation of neuromarketing and its sciences. So a brief on neuromarketing. Neuromarketing is the application of neuroscience to marketing. Neuroscience is basically study of neurons or the nervous system in our body. Neurons are basically the elements present inside our brain, the human brains, which is actually storing the memory, the brain power, everything. So, I mean, all this intelligent quotient is actually starting or emerging from the neurons present in a human's body. So basically, neuroscience is the study of all these intelligences, all these responses, everything. And neuromarketing is a sort of marketing using the neuroscientific studies which we have. So in this explanation, the neurons are information messengers. They use the electrical impulses and chemical signals to transmit one message from one place to another. So every time I would say some examples on the act of neurons and nervous system. For example, if you keep your finger on some heated surface, you touch it and you feel the heat. You feel the heat not because you just touched your fingers. A message is being sent through the nervous system, from your fingers to your brains to your neurons. That is how your brain is getting a message that your finger is being burned, your finger is being kept on a heated surface. So that is how your whole body is being acted on. So that is the main thing which we are using for the marketing benefits of a company or like a commercial firm. So the basic science. The neuroscience is also known as neural science. It is like I've explained in my initial slides. It is actually a study of nervous system and neurons and how it is actually developing the structure, everything. And the neuroscientists are the ones who actually study the neuroscience or the nervous system. They actually look on to the behavior of our brains and the cognitive function. So that is how they are actually getting all these data, all these understandings of better. I mean, how the neurons in the brain system, including all of the nervous system, actually happen. The neurons, like I explained in my initial slides, it is actually just signals or electrical signals or impulses which is being transmitted from one body to another. And at the end, your brain is receiving this message, and that is how they are actually understanding it. So a brief history on neuromarketing. In 1990s, I mean, there are many sort of marketing techniques, marketing theories which has been acting across the globe. But the neuromarketing got an emergence in the 1990s. That was the first time a whole concept of neuromarketing was sort of introduced to the market, even though it wasn't official. It was in 1990, an economist and his team, and his name was Gerald Zartman. He introduced neuromarketing techniques for two companies, especially Ford, the automotive company, and PepsiCo. These two companies had this opportunity to they enhance their marketing strategies with the help of neuromarketing techniques suggested by Gerald Zartman. And in the later in 2002, there was a first academic piece on neuromarketing being published by another economist named Schmitz. So that is how you can see the first steps of the neuromarketing techniques being established in this world. And in 2004, the first conference on the topic was arranged in Houston. So it was actually emerging by then. Everything was emerging by then. And in 2012, an organization of neuromarketing or Neuromarketing Business and Science Association was formed. So by this time, a proper structure, a proper organization to give people, the companies, the people who, the student of knowledge, everyone was started getting knowledge on academics regarding the concept was being introduced, and for now it is booming in a different level. So in neuromarketing, like I've initially told you, it is actually basically a science of understanding the nervous system. When I say the nervous system, the understanding of nervous system is having many sort of categories. So, for example, the study of structures of the nervous system, study of your brain's neurons of the nervous system. But for us, when neuromarketing is being considered, we only look on to the behavioral neuroscience. I mean, how your brain is actually responding to a situation, how your brain is actually trying to survive in an immediate, in an immediate time, like a normal primate. Because all this neuroscience, all this behavioral neuroscience has been can be mapped back to our theory of evolution by Charles Darwin. I mean, as per evolution, we all know that. I mean, humans came into existence as per the Charles Darwin theory of evolution, where by the survival of the fittest. I mean, we survived the situation and we are here. So survival of the fittest has got a roots in our brains implemented by a part of our brain called the limbic brain. I mean, you can see in the screen the blue part in our brain. This part of the brain or the mammalian brain is actually helping us to take a decision in an immediate cost, in an immediate time. So this response, this immediate response to survive a situation or a time or one of the atrocities or an accident or incident is actually helping us in the science of neuromarketing. So the behavioral neuroscience is what we are taking into consideration. So that because that is actually required for our neuromarketing techniques and all. So the mammalian middle brain, the limbic system, the blue part in this brain, I mean, in this picture, is deals with our emotions, moods, memory, and hormone. I mean, this is actually pertaining to the emotional quotient. We all know we all use our intelligence quotient mostly, but at the end, we all are humans. For now, the studies suggest that we use more emotional quotient than the intelligence quotient to understand, to buy, to purchase certain products or anything. So this emotional quotient, which can be understood, which can be signified by these emotions, modes, memory, and hormone, can be actually drained out from this behavioral neuroscience, from the limbic system and its responses of a human being. So there are certain methods which can be taken into consideration when it comes to the neuromarketing data or understanding of a human being, how he is going to perceive certain stuff, how is he going to perceive an understanding of the product, how is he going to take into consideration, okay, I'll take this product, or is he actually liking it? So there are certain methods to understand all these scenarios. So I'm going deeply into those methods. The first one is the eye tracking. It is actually a tool to understand from your eyes, the potential eyes of a customer, if he actually likes this or if he is satisfied with this product. I mean, you can look into a product and if you feel happy with it, that happiness will be emanated from the eyes through which you are looking. And you can really understand if a person, a customer, is actually happy with the product or satisfied with the product. So that is what we call the eye tracking method. Then comes the facial coding. We have certain muscles on our face. These muscles movements can actually define how we smile. For example, if I smile like this, you can see all these muscles actually acting on my face. Considering this muscle acting, consider the action of these muscles, any emotion, whatever the emotion be, we can understand how a person is perceiving a product or a situation. So facial coding is actually used when can be used by a customer if he is looking to a certain product of ours. And if you can actually analyze all those muscles acting on his face, and from those muscles acting on his face, the movement of those muscles, the stretching of those muscles on his face, we can sense if he's actually satisfied with the product, if he's actually happy with the product. And if he's not satisfied with the product, the same can be understood from this facial coding method of how that is one of the best scenarios neuromarketing techniques has been used. Then comes the sensory marketing. The normal other senses like sound, touch, and smell. I mean, if you go smell a fragrance or consider it to be a perfume company, And if you smell some good perfume, and if you feel happy, if you like the smell, automatically that is going to be depicted on your face in fraction of seconds. And from that situation, you can understand a person likes the product or not. So a sensory marketing is like sound, touch, and smell, like a food or anything. It depends upon your taste, everything. All the other senses you can actually combine and clench on to attain the understanding of a person, of a customer, if he really likes this product or not. Then there are some neuromarketing mind tricks. This is like psychological mind tricks which are used. I mean, this won't be trying to understand a person. Instead of understanding a person or a customer, we are making the customer move in a path which we actually want to, by using psychological tricks. I mean, even that is connected with your neurons, because we all know how humans are going to act in a certain situation. Considering the action, considering how the humans, how the customers, how the normal mammalian brain, how the limbic system is going to act on a certain situation, we are actually bending, flexing a situation in a way that the customer is going to follow us in that depicting situation. That is what we call the neuromarketing mind trick. It is so psychological. Then comes the main part. I mean, this part is so data. I mean, we can completely data it. We call it. We have these machineries on our brains. Considering we are understanding the impulses inside our brains when you are coming across a product of ours. For example, we have the EEG and the fMRIs. The EEGs are basically like you have this helmet and all this I mean, the small nerve, I mean, all the system which is connecting to your brains, not exactly inside, but you have this system, and you'll connect this certain thing, and your whole system will be connected to certain computers, and you will understand looking on to the response from this, because all the signals are being sent to this computer with this machine from the customer, and you will know exactly what this customer is going through, what this human being is going through. Does he really like it or does he not? So that is how we use the EEGs. Then come the functional MRIs. I mean, this is something big, because we have to send this person into this machine, which we find in the hospitals and medical clinics and all. And we are trying to understand, read the brain inside. For example, if a person is went through a cardiac arrest or something, we usually send these people to understand if there is an activity inside the brain, if there is a blockade in the brain, using this machinery. With this same machinery is being used to understand the impulses in the brain when it comes to the product, or when it comes to a product and its likeness from a human being. And one more thing I would like to add up to this. So in some cases, we can combine these methods together to understand. For example, I can use this EEG and this facial coding together to understand a situation. So in some situations, we even combine these whole methods to get a better productivity, to better understanding. So how this human is going to perceive. Now, these are some cases I would like to clench on to get a better understanding how the whole marketing technique is being acted on. In the first case, this was like an advertisement posted by one of the diapers company. In the first picture, which you see here, you can see that there is a red spot amidst the face of the baby. The company had to change the advertisement to the second one. I'll tell you the reason why. In the first situation, we all know, we all are human beings. We all know we have this likeliness for the cuteness of babies. And in this situation, you can see a red spot on the face of this baby. This red spot is an infrared radiation. I mean, when a person is looking onto it, when the customers are looking onto it, there is an impression of this red situation region of due to the infrared radiation because of the emission of EMFs and all. So here, the customers was just looking at the baby, but the product was on the right. No one was looking here because the baby was completely enough for the customer to look on. So what the company did, the advertisement company did, was they changed the position of the baby. They changed the position of the baby in a way the baby was looking onto the diapers. So what happened when the customer was looking onto the baby's face, the baby was looking onto a direction, and the customer had this tendency to look onto the direction the baby was looking on, and the baby was obviously looking onto the direction where the diaper was kept. And that is when the customers started noting the diapers. I mean, that is how you change. You do not know how the customers are going to act. In the way that we are changing the customer, we are flexing it through the customer without them even knowing. In this advertisement of Sunsilk, you can see in the first case, the model, the eyeballs of the model is actually direct to us. So in this case, there is no, what do you say, no impact on this ad because there is no impact. I mean, it is just a model and a shampoo, but the customers were not more concentrated on the shampoo. But instead, in the second situation, you can see they actually change the direction of the eyeballs of the model in a way that the model was looking onto the shampoo or onto the product. So in this situation, you can see a whole wet region because when we look at the model is looking onto something. So we have this tendency to look onto the product. So due to this, we have a glance of the product again. We as a customer, or the customers have a glance, I mean, they have this tendency to look onto the product and making sure that product is being noticed and we have this longing onto it. And this is one of the case, this Hyundai, this automotive brand, they took into consideration a percent of people and they made them to go through the EEG method to understand, to better understand which sort of prototype is more liked by the customers or by the majority of the customers so that they can produce more of that prototype which the majority of customers would like to have so that it would increase their sales because they know what they are already having the data what the customers actually want. Now this is the case for, I mean, one of the things which Amazon, Flipkart, eBay actually does. You can see in this case the first thing what we actually look normally as a human being is the price of a product, but here you can see they actually give the review in the first, so that after looking at this review I have this impression, oh, this product is so good, I mean this product is so nice. So when I get this impression imprint in my heart, whatever the price is, I would go to get this stuff. So that is how they are using your psychological brains to purchase a product in neuromarketing. So this is one of my favorite case. This happened actually in Amsterdam. The cleaning manager of Amsterdam, he printed a photo, a picture of a fly in the men's urinary. So what happened, there was a tendency by the men, when they were urinating, they had a tendency to actually aim at the fly. Even though there was no fly, they had this, I mean, it was just a picture. I mean, psychologically, you're not knowing what you're trying to do, but at the end, the men were trying to aim at this fly. This actually helped in reducing 80% of the urine spillage that actually was happening in the Amsterdam toilets. And this actually helped in 80% reduction in the cleaning cost, the overall cleaning cost. So that is how you actually you flex the brains of the customers, you flex the brain of the people, they do not know what they are doing. In a way, they are doing something which they do not know. So that is how we play. This example is one of the neuromarketing psychological method because we are playing with psychology in this case. So these are some basic companies, famous companies which actually used neuromarketing techniques in the past and still going on with it. So there was this commercial on Cheetos because we all know Cheetos. When we have this Cheetos, we have all these small droppings from the Cheetos of this orange thing on our hands, everything. So they used the same thing. They made a commercial on it of a lady, how she's trying to wash the clothes, which was completely with this orange Cheetos remainings and all. And this advertisement was not received good by the customers or the people across the globe initially. But what happened was the same set of customers, when they were meant to go through this EEG method, we understood they really liked this they really liked this ad. I mean, they had a positive brain response or activity when they are actually looking on to such an advertisement. So that actually increased their sales. That is what I mean. The humans do not know what they actually want, what their brain actually requires, what their brain actually perceives. They talk something else, but their brain requires, their neurons, the nervous system requires something else. And Yahoo, they actually initially they made a 1-minute video of making a sort of community, making people think that you can reach anyone from anywhere and start a big community with just sitting back at your home. This sort of an advertisement, invested a sort of emotion to create a community, to get to know more people, and to more personalities, to get to reach more personalities from different continents and countries. And that actually increased the number of registrations in the Yahoo platform. And this was actually done by the EEG techniques. And that is how they understood how the people are responding to such situations. And PayPal. PayPal is one of this money transfer platform. PayPal used pictures which was depicting street lights that was moving so fast. I mean, you would think, why would PayPal use a street light that was street lights or car lights, headlights, everything moving in a quick way? That was actually feeding your brain a different perception. I mean, you're not just looking onto a picture that was actually some lights moving fast, but it was actually depicting, or what do you say, engraving in your heart that it is fast. It is fast and safe. You do not know how to read this initially, I mean, literally or theoretically, but this was a message that was being engraved in your hearts, so that the customers had this engravement in their heart. So they trusted PayPal like crazy, because they know, I mean, they had this impression that it was fast and secure. PayPal was fast and secure. And that is how PayPal played with their neuromarketing technique. And Airbnb, we all know we have hosts in Airbnb. Some will be hosts, and this host will be hosting people coming from different places. Initially in the New York, when Airbnb came in New York, people did not actually accept it, invite. So what they did, they put up a commercial. So there was this lady. She was actually a host in Airbnb. She was a New Yorkian, and they made a video out of her, which was actually which is still on YouTube now. In that video, she was telling, "I'm a host in Airbnb, and I am trying to support me and my family with the money I'm getting from Airbnb in this way." I mean, this created an emotional impact among the people of New York. I mean, she is one of us, and she is trying to support her family with this Airbnb. So we have to support. I mean, this emotional quotient actually acted like widespread throughout the New Yorkians, and that actually gained more support for Airbnb in the New York then. So these are some these are some other basic companies which have used neuromarketing. And Microsoft, we all know what Microsoft is and what its history is. Microsoft was using data, getting data from gadgets like Xbox and all, to understand how a person is responding to a certain situation. Because when they play games, we have all this emotion happening when you play a game: surprise, satisfaction, frustration. And from this, they were deriving the data and understanding how a person is trying to enact in a certain situation. So that is how Microsoft was actually playing with neuromarketing. And eBay, we all know, like the Amazon, they also have the same situation of neuromarketing techniques. And they actually elevated their status in neuromarketing with a leader called Neurofocus. It is one of the greatest neuromarketing consultants in this world. Now, I would like to introduce to you a famous experiment that happened between Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Because I don't think anyone would require an introduction about what Pepsi and Coca is here. So, but still, I would say in 2002 there was this. I mean, there has been many experiments of Pepsi and Coca-Cola, but in 2002 there was this famous experiment. They selected a bunch of people, and everyone was made blind. I mean, they were given blindfolds, and they were asked to select one between Pepsi and Coca-Cola without looking at it. So majority of the people chose Pepsi over Coca-Cola, or you can say it was just 50-50%. I mean, 50% chose Pepsi, 50% chose Coca-Cola, considering the taste. And next, when the blindfold was removed, just 25% chose Pepsi, and rest 75% chose Coca-Cola. One of the reasons for this was, when it came to the taste, people chose Pepsi over Coca-Cola. But when it came to the looks of how Coca and Pepsi is, but you can see the colors acting here. Red has got better wavelength, and this wavelength is actually affecting your brains easily. Affecting means it's not actually going to mentally paralyze you, but it is actually making you a sort of feeling, okay, I love this better than that. So this color red was actually enacted by one of the like a neuromarketing technique for Coca-Cola. And this color actually made the people who liked Pepsi before to like Coca-Cola over Pepsi in this situation. So that is how neuromarketing techniques are actually playing throughout. So this is one of the famous, or you can say the father of marketing, David McKenzie. He once said the trouble with market research is that people don't think how they feel, they don't say what they think, and they don't do what they say. I mean, he actually meant to say that we do not know what we actually want. The customers do not actually know what we want. We think that we want this, but we do not actually want this property. I mean, that is how our brains are. I mean, our brains need something else, our body needs something else, but our mouths are talking about something else. So that is what he was trying to say in this situation. So since we are designers, future designers, so I would like to blend the neuromarketing techniques with the product designing. I mean, when it comes to the product designing, we all know designing or coming out with a design is not a small job, but we have our own abstracts, we have our own constraints when it comes to the product designing. Neuromarketing has been applied extensively in product and package design. In part, people find it very hard to articulate in between. I mean, when you come with a product, you should make sure the product is not that new to the customer. At the same time, the product is not that familiar to the customer. It should be something in between. I mean, we call it novelty and familiarity. So that is something I'll be explaining in my next slide. But in this slide, I would like to say the product should be noticed. It should, even though it is new, it should be noticed. And the product attractivity. These two are the major concerns which we have. But more than that, we have the sweet spot. The sweet spot is the spot in between novelty and familiarity. When I say novelty, it's like newness. I mean, if you bring something new, if you design something new, that should not look like an alien to the customer. That should not be out of box for the customer. That should be something the customer knows, but not exactly new, but little bit new. At the same time, it should not be that familiar. I mean, for example, if iPhone is coming up with the next design, because we all have this impression of how iPhone is going to be a single switch all screen. But in tomorrow, I mean, if in the next design, if iPhone is coming up with a design with keypad, you wouldn't take it. I mean, that is so new. When we have a different picture of iPhone, we have a different familiarity with iPhone. So it should not be that new, it should not be that familiar, it should be something in between. So that is what we call sweet spot, and this sweet spot is where we designers should be clinging on to. In this case, most consumers are attracted to novelty because our brains are naturally curious. I mean, we as a human being, as a mammalian brain, we are curious what this is, what this new stuff is about. But at the same time, we should be familiar with this thing, but not that familiar too. But too much novelty overwhelms us and may lead to rejection of a new product. If it isn't familiar enough for us to see, it would meet our needs. So that is how we have to understand. I mean, we should not design a product that is so familiar and that is not that new to. So that is how we should come up with a conclusion or an abstract. Then it comes to the neurodesign. As a designer, we have a certain classification in the neuromarketing industry. We call it the neurodesign. I mean, understanding the neuroscience, understanding the human science, understanding the limbic brains, understanding the Homo sapiens, understanding the mammalians, we can design something considered what we actually need, what the customers actually need, what the majority actually need. Instead of just designing and making them like this stuff, we can understand what they actually need. Rather than their talks, there are certain methods which we can actually read out what they actually need. So that is what neurodesigning is. It is basically a subfield of neuroscience and social psychology. And neurodesign actually explores how and why our brains are attracted to some designs. I mean, why are we attracted to the minimalist design more? Why are we not attracted to so sophisticated designs? That is all the part of neurodesign. I mean, this study, this part of department is actually cleansing on to understand the human brains better when it comes to the design part. So this is some basic science of neuromarketing and the design realm as a whole. On a neuroscientific level, neurodesign exploits the brain process visual stimuli to make decisions. I mean, like I told in my initial slides, we as a mammalian brain, we have this stimuli to make decisions immediately. So neurodesign exploits this thing, this way of brain process to understand. They actually make it visual to understand what the person actually needs. In humans, perception occurs in a hierarchical system. I mean, we have this system which start from one point to another in a hierarchy, and within this hierarchy we are understanding the stimuli of the brain, how it is actually trying to survive. I mean, we have this tendency to survive in an immediate cause, in an immediate situation, and this immediate situation, how our brain is responding is or can be actually database, and this can be used in the design like an abstract. We must immediately decide whether to implement an escape or compact reaction. I mean, to implement an escape or a compact reaction is like an old what do you say, an old cause in the survival of the fittest during the evolution. That is like the main thing which we use even for now, but we have different phases of life for now. Of an object, the brain first perceives the color. I mean, color is one of the most attractive things which we actually clench on to, look on to, are glued upon. I mean, when you start with color in successive order, color will change to forms, recognition, attribution of a meaning to it. I mean, it is actually giving a meaning to a situation or a phase or a complete abstract. The knowledge of the mechanism of perception is revealed in required. I mean, all these three phases of color, forms, attribution, everything can be used, combined, and actually understood how the user experience would like to approach. That is how this neurodesign is happening. And principles of neurodesign. There are certain principles of neurodesign which actually have a certain flow while designing, considering the neurosciences. The rule of simplicity comes first. A minimalist design always attracts. I mean, we all know as a designer, for now, there has been an emergence in minimalist design. That is one of the reasons for that is, I would say, it is due to the emergence of the neuromarketing or the neurosciences. Because a minimalist design always attracts and is more successful than complicated one. Because our brains as a basic brain likes to save energy and hates having to process too many details. I mean, when you look at a sophisticated design, even though if it is looking good, even though it is looking unique, your brain required more energy, extra energy to understand the detailings, to look at the detailings, to flow through the detailings and all. So to cut this part short, we stick on to the minimalist design. That is what our brain actually wants. So that is the rule of simplicity in the principles of neurodesign. And the fluidity rule. You should have a certain flow. I mean, there should not be any sort of abrupts or hurdles in between. They presents the concept after one another in a logical succession. I mean, there should be a succession in a visual perception in order to make it simple and easy to understand and follow. Then comes the round shapes rule. I mean, we prefer curves and lines without cuts or angles over the cut joints. I mean, over this where you say this joints or intersections and all. We prefer the curves or the flow or fluidity. That is what we prefer. I mean, our basic brains prefer. So that is what we say the rounded shapes rule. This is one of the principles of neurodesign. Then symmetry. Symmetry, we all know how satisfied we have, what sort of satisfaction we have as a human when we look at a design which is actually so symmetrical to look at. I mean, that is one of the things which our basic brains need. So, but we won't actually might be talking much for a symmetry, but our basic brains actually requires this, and we are satisfied with this. And familiarity. Familiarity is something which I've explained in my slides before, but again, I would like to do the explanation again. Familiarity, like I told you, it should be familiar to us. I mean, when you look at a phone, you should know it is a phone. When you look at a design, you should know what it is at least, rather than having something different shape and the product activity is different. You won't have this likeliness to go for the product. So instead of that, you should have a familiarity with the product, what it is going to be, how productive it is going to be for you. Then it comes the contrast and color. Contrast and color actually plays a major role in a design. We all know that. I mean, depending upon the color you choose, depending upon the color where the color is kept, depending upon the different colors we choose, we have a certain likeliness to a product. Like in the case of Pepsi and Coca-Cola, we saw people preferred Coca-Cola over Pepsi because red is having a better wavelength, and that actually created an impulse in the human brains and that made a tendency to go for Coca over Pepsi. So that is how the colors are actually playing. So this is something you need to, I mean, all these principles should be followed when you go for a design, considering, I mean, keeping in mind, keeping behind your heads, we have to design like a neuroscientist. So this is basically a schematic to make you understand more easily how neurodesign actually works. On the left, you can see a person wearing sort of Professor X's cap, in which actually all this system is connected to your nerves, not internally, but an external, it's a different medical situation. And this person can be a customer. This person can be someone you selected to understand what would he like an abstract. And this customer or this person, this human being is actually looking onto a screen. And this screen, whatever he requires, whatever the person requires, whatever she requires, whatever the customer is actually required, I mean, whatever his brain requires will be depicted on the screen. For example, if it might start with a single line, which is black, and it would change to a square in between, because square is something that person would have wanted. I mean, the basic nerves of the person would have wanted. And it would change to different forms again, considering what emotions, what the person is satisfied with. And at the same time, these two systems are connected to a different computer, different PC, which is actually deriving technically, or what do you say, the UX design, everything, what the abstract is about. I mean, what the person actually needs, what the person actually, I mean, they are decoding what is happening between the screen and the person, what is happening between in the brains of the person. They are decoding with this system, okay? And at the end, once the customer is done, when the person is done, when the person wearing this cap is done, he would actually go for the abstract. I mean, you can derive everything, you can decode everything from all this system, what the person actually needs. For example, it might be just a square with 2-3 colors, but from that abstract, we as a designers can understand what this person actually needs, and we can start the design then and then. So that is what me and my team had prepared for this topic. I hope it was enough.
Thank you very much. Very good presentation.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay. You can stop the recording.
Okay.